Welcome to today's seminar, which is entitled The Words You Need. Let's begin with an overview. This is today's plan. Today I'm going to talk about vocabulary and the best way to approach learning new English words. But before we talk about vocabulary, I want to look at some background. So here's how today's seminar is organized. First of all, we'll talk about what really is a miracle, and that is the miracle of human language. We'll talk about that miracle, first of all. Then, secondly, we'll talk about how humans learn language, what we know about language learning, what we know about vocabulary learning, and I'll talk about a scientific approach to learning vocabulary. And finally, I'll conclude with some suggestions for study. So let's begin by talking about the miracle of human language. We could ask the question, what makes us human? What distinguishes us from animals? We can think of many answers to this question, but what it comes down to is language. Now, animals certainly have language. Animals certainly communicate. I just returned from the mountains in Nagano Prefecture, and the cicadas by day and frogs at night were deafening in their calls to find a mate. Baboons have several alarm calls. These alarm calls are different for different attackers. For example, leopards and lions. Leopards can climb trees, lions cannot. Therefore, a baboon's alarm call is different for leopards and lions because the escape strategy will be different. Many insects communicate by smell, leaving trails of scent that signal a food source or a potential attack. In the ocean, squid communicate by changing their body color. But this animal communication is different from human communication in a fundamental way. Animal communication consists of signals that communicate an immediate and present condition. It might be danger, it might be food, it might be availability for reproduction. Humans, by contrast, are able to communicate not only these signals, but also abstract, non-time-dependent concepts. And with the development of writing, this communication can take place across generations. Copernicus, Newton, Kepler, and Einstein are long dead, but their ideas live on through written works. So now we've considered language learning in general, or language in general. Let's go on and talk about how humans learn language. And first of all, we'll talk about children, and then we'll talk about adults, because the background is quite different. And really, there's a second miracle here, and that is that all humans learn a language. All normal humans learn a language. And they learn that language incredibly rapidly. In fact, without any formal instruction, a typical 5-year-old can communicate in complete sentences and has a vocabulary of around 10,000 words. 60 years ago, a researcher called Noam Chomsky suggested that this rapid language development could not be explained by language input from parents and others. Chomsky suggested that there's a structure in the human brain that enables language development, a so-called LAD, or language acquisition device. We can think of the language acquisition device as similar to computer hardware. The software is the language input of whatever language the baby is surrounded by. Well, it seems that the solution is simple then. If a baby can learn 10,000 words by the time it's 5 years old, you should be able to do the same, right? Unfortunately, a baby has two advantages. First of all, babies have no responsibilities. They don't have a job. They don't have to go to school. All they do is sleep, eat, and learn language. But probably more important than that, there is a concept in language learning studies called the critical period. And the critical period hypothesis suggests that this miraculous facility for language learning that babies have rapidly declines around puberty, and adults lose this ability. But don't give up, because not all aspects of language learning decline to the same extent. While it is notoriously difficult for an adult to acquire native-like pronunciation, there's nothing to prevent adults from acquiring a wider vocabulary. And that brings me to the point of this seminar. As non-native speakers, how can you efficiently and effectively increase your English vocabulary?